Niantic announced its Beyond Reality Developer Contest earlier today, and is encouraging devs to enter and create a game using the studio as a real-world platform for a chance at a prize pool of more than $1 million. This could be a good opportunity for developers interested in using a new tool to create projects, and the chance at earning a stipend and showing their work at a demo day hosted by Niantic. As explained in a blog post, the studio is seeking a team composition of at least 5 developers with experience in Unity and Java server development. In terms of product, the possibilities are endless. Our definition of games is pretty expansive. So if you have an idea that bridges gaming and other areas like physical activity, social, travel or shopping, please feel free to submit. The post reads: a select group of 10 teams will earn a stipend and access to the Niantic real-world platform, and finalists will work for a 3-month period with the goal of showing off their work at a demo day in San Francisco. In addition to regular guidance and discussion from the Niantic engineering team, finalists will be brought to the San Francisco Bay Area to meet with executives and lay the groundwork for the work to come. Interested developers are encouraged to apply through Niantic's contest site and field, and further questions to email protected. Hoedown is a premium-priced mobile brick breaker built upon the joy found in a single moment in the genre, the time when the ball sneaks behind the blocks and just goes wild, bashing away at them as the player watches. It's a game that encourages players get their ball bouncing between blocks as often as possible, savoring the chaos as the balls slam about. Gamasutra spoke with Martin Greatfruit Jonathan, developer of Hoedown as well as other finely made indie games like Twofold Incorporated and Dream Capsule, to talk about how the appeal of this moment shaped the game's play style, how the game's design helps the player find order and strategy within those wild bounces, and designing stages that would make this kind of moment happen often. In Jonathan's words, per usual, it's a mishmash of ideas from all over. But the initial seed came from playing another game that uses a similar mechanic: aim a stream of balls at a bunch of blocks, break them, do it again. That particular game felt like a missed opportunity, so I quickly threw together my own prototype to try out some ideas I had. There's this mysterious, universal appeal to watching a bunch of balls bounce around that just made it work really well. Basically, it became about distilling that bit in more traditional brick breakers, i.e., breakout, where you sneak a ball in above all the bricks, and it just goes wild. I cannot claim to really understand it, but the bouncing is hypnotic. With Hoedown, it became a challenge to balance the inherent chaos of 50 or balls bouncing around with some type of order and hierarchy to what was and was not important. There's a lot going on once the bouncing starts, so I was fairly restrictive with effects and such, mostly using them to convey important changes and events. This is related to the layout of the generation of levels. I realized it would be a good incentive for deep shots if the blocks actually rested on each other, so removing blocks lower in the playfield would make it messy. This basically required the game to have you shoot down. I did try upside-down gravity along with shooting up, because that configuration is less prone to the common mobile issue of hiding the thing you are aiming at with your finger. However, that upside-down mode was incredibly confusing, so firing down it was. The stages are all procedurally generated, but somehow, I got quite lucky with the way they are generated and ended up with a setup that was easy to tweak to make levels that strike a good balance. between difficulty and fun shots. Early in prototyping, it became obvious that the most fun shots were when you managed to get your balls in a small pocket and they bounce around wildly. These types of setups were originally somewhat rare to happen upon. But once I realized I could do the rounded corners, it all fell into place. They open up the playfield much more, and in combination with the larger Tetrimino-style blocks, it just works really well. Looks nice too. That balance is all down to tweaking the way the levels are generated. Luckily, I have many knots I can tweak for that. I can adjust how many blocks are filled, how big the blocks are, how many blocks are stuck in the wall, and perhaps most importantly, their hit points. All of these things were adjusted over months of testing alongside working on the game. Early on, I had an idea that the player would amass diamonds as they were digging, just like now. But instead of keeping them all as the round ends, you do lose them unless you build early to save your work. I had these checkpoints every so often where you could opt to escape to the surface. But no one ever did. They just wanted to keep digging. I tried adjusting things, but could never get it to really feel like an interesting choice. It either felt like digging was the best option, or it just felt overly mean. I did not like having to cut that idea. I somehow still really like it. But in the end, it did not work no matter how much of a darling it was. This game was the first time I worked with a concept artist. The original plan was to try to take the visuals away from my comfortable old style and some weird mood, but I guess time constraints and just regular old convenience brought me back to my usual style. That style is very much a function of being a one-person studio. It's a kind of minimalism forced by time constraints. In most creative endeavors, it seems to me that the more you cut, the better it gets. This gets extra important when you are a small studio. I can add all the features I want, but if I spread myself too thin, it'll all be for nothing. Hence, I try to keep things as small and tight as I can and then polish them to look and feel as good as I possibly can. I am sure that would be much different if I had a larger team. Constraints are an excellent thing to have, as it's incredibly hard to try and do something when it can be anything. A couple of small limitations go a long way to get me inspired. For sure, early prototypes were just about playing a single, long game with unlimited shots and limited depth. This ended up creating very long, drawn-out runs. I had testers who got really into it that could maintain a game for days. This is all great, until you lose. I wanted to encourage shorter sort of adaptive rounds of play, not those marathon runs. Hence, I added a few things that would keep runs from going on far too long. I am of two minds about the upgrade system. I do enjoy a good upgrade, but I also feel that I did not have time to take it quite as far as I would have liked to. I did consider having various single-use items and other things, but it ended up adding too much complexity, and that was not a trade-off I liked. The idea with the upgrades was to create a sense of progress. The way they unlock is also built so skilled players can unlock them at a regular pace. But even a less adept player will get them all given time. I had ideas for a wider variety of upgrades, like single-use bombs and others, but they were all cut due to disturbing the simplicity of the game's controls. I'd also considered damage upgrades for the bows, but it fell on the extra complexity to the math you sort of need to do in your head. So, what remained was a fairly restricted set of upgrades that allowed the game to slowly build in intensity and duration. The Gamasutra job board is the most diverse. active and established board of its kind for the video game industry. Here is just one of the many positions being advertised right now. Location: Berlin, Germany. Are you passionate about designing killer mechanics, amazing combat features, and delivering exciting gameplay? And we want to hear from you. Toadman Interactive Berlin is seeking a mid-tools in your game designer to join us in defining and building our next hit game for X, PlayStation, and PC. You will be joining a highly talented and diverse team of developers right at the start of our new project. As a key driving force behind game design in the studio, you will be expected to be a creative problem solver, work closely with other departments, own the game's gameplay and balancing, and ultimately help drive the project vision from concept to release.